there are so many better guitar players. Okay, awesome. So do only the best ones make money? Do only the best ones have careers? There are a ton of terrible musicians that are very famous for their music. There's a lot of incredibly famous pop stars, for example, that don't write their own music. They don't write their own lyrics. They don't write their own music. They're just very talented performers and maybe singers. And that's what they bring. And they need to be paired with great writers. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not even judging that. But I don't think a lot of people necessarily know the behind the scenes of that. And as an actor in Los Angeles, there are a lot of really not great actors at their craft that are just incredibly charismatic, man. You just love them. You meet them as humans and they're so charismatic. And between the natural charisma and the right roles and good editing, they are stars.
Welcome to Modern Enlightenment, a sanctuary for your soul, where we'll go on a path of personal and spiritual development. I'm Austin Mao.
And I'm Chuchu Wang. We are your companions on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual connection.
Join us as we delve into the fusion of modern psychotherapy, neuroscience, psychospirituality, and shamanic plant sacrament ceremonies, exploring the transformative potential of psychedelics for the mind, body, and spirit.
Our mission is to guide you to a place of profound awareness where emotions can be felt.
Together, let's illuminate the way to a brighter, more enlightened existence.
Modern Enlightenment, where your journey to inner peace begins.
I'm so excited to have my dear friend Adam Roa here in front of me, artist, poet, creator, the host of the Creative Path podcast, and creator of the Artistic Entrepreneur program, right?
Yes.
Welcome, Adam, to Modern Enlightenment.
I like how you announced it. You have that voice as if we were in a sci-fi movie and you were like, welcome to this podcast where you're going to have your life changed.
Perfect. So when the AI overlords take over, maybe that could be my new career. I could like voice the doors opening or something.
Instead of, you know that movie Her, you can be him.
I could be him?
Yeah.
I don't think people want me in their ears 24/7.
I think so. That's why they're listening to this podcast right now.
Well, thank you for that vote of confidence.
Yeah. You got a great computer-generated voice. Very soothing.
I don't know if that's a compliment, but I'm going to take it as one right now.
It is.
So Adam, we met because we've both kind of followed this path of ayahuasca. And I think around some similar times is when we began. And I connected to your poetry early on. I'm also a poet myself. And when I'm under ayahuasca, I write poetry too. And something else that as I got to know you better, I saw so much dimensionality. Like earlier today, we were just having a conversation about initial impressions and just being aware of what those initial impressions are for people. I'm wondering if you could just first like speak to that. Like what are you aware of the initial impressions that people have for you and how that's impacted the work that you do?
Yeah, I think a lot of people come across, especially my social media, because that's a way that now people are finding me. And most of my social media is my poetry, my artistry. You see me speaking on stages. And I think that one of the pieces that is missed a lot when first encountering me online is my business background. You know, I graduated magna cum laude with a marketing degree. I worked in an ad agency. I've been an entrepreneur doing 6 or 7 figures for over a decade now. And I think that that is often missed. I had someone recently say to me, yeah, I wasn't sure if you were just kind of a poet living out of your suitcase and traveling the world and the implication is actually really telling, because I think that in society, we have a view of artists as, you know, more tied to the starving artist archetype and this idea that artists don't have this other side that is the inner entrepreneur and business person and the brain to be able to develop and build an ecosystem, for example. And so I think I give off a bit of that artist vibe. And that can often lead to people overlooking these other aspects. But I do think authenticity, vulnerability, depth, hopefully that comes across when people first encounter me.
Yeah, it's like there's this impression of mutual exclusivity between being an artist and being, let's say, a business operator, right? Almost like a left-right brain separation. And, you know, when I have gotten to know you more and more, I see this integration of the two. And in fact, an enhancement of the two, right? Like your business skills help you develop a program that amplifies your message and it frees you up space to be in greater creativity for yourself.
Well, this is the foundation of the Artistic Entrepreneur Program that I started, which is how do we actually bring into wholeness the conflict that often exists between our inner artist and our inner entrepreneur, which is so much deeper, and we can go here, which is the inner feminine and inner masculine within us, but outwardly expressed as our inner artist, inner entrepreneur. And what I find to be so interesting about that is one of the main points that people have around inner artistry is freedom. The artist needs to be free to express, completely devoid of any limitations or rules. Like I can do whatever I want. And yet, inherently, actually, every artist needs limitation. Every artist needs structure. It's how the artistry is able to funnel into something. So every painter has a canvas and certain paints and paintbrushes. Every musician has the same amount of notes and every guitarist has the frets, right? And I believe that without that, it's just chaos. It's feminine energy. It's complete infinite potential, but it's chaotic. And so the giving frets to a guitar allows for that infinite creativity to funnel into something structured to hold it. And the canvas, even this canvas right here, having that, even the frame of the podcast video right now, it's like I have to stay in frame in front of a microphone. But within that structure, we can unleash infinite amounts of creative energy. And so when we are talking about inner entrepreneur, inner artist, the entrepreneur creates the structure that our inner artist can unleash into. Without that structure, it's chaos.
So I'm reminded of a study that I often cite in the context of our retreats, that children, when they had no boundary in the playground and it was just a wide plain outside of it, they would huddle in the center. But when there were fences put out around the playground, they explored that playground freely, right? And it was speaking to safety that children can feel. And hearing your story, I imagine this is something that you learned. Like it's not something that was just self-evident, as is, contrasting the initial impressions of artist versus entrepreneur. So like, how did you get to learn this inner entrepreneur, inner artist dynamic?
Because I had some major milestone experiences that I looked back on and saw how I was not developing or honoring one or the other. And so when I was in high school, I say I won high school. And what I mean by that is I started off as this really insecure, tiny kid who was like everyone else was hitting puberty. I wasn't hitting puberty. And I realized, I'm not going to be the jock, cool, whatever. I need to be more successful. And that was in line with my father being an immigrant from the Philippines and basically instilling this idea that my love was received through what I achieved. And so those things led me, when I got to high school, I stopped my artistic pursuit I used to do school plays. I just still love acting school plays.
You're a drama kid.
Well, when I was in elementary school and stuff like that. And so there was no, I'm a drama kid or I'm not. It's just, this is what I love to do, right? And then once I got to high school and I realized, I looked at TV and I said, there's no one that looks like me. At that time, the most popular Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, the TV show was That 70s Show. So Ashton Kutcher, and the only person that looked like me was Keanu Reeves when that started. But you didn't see people like us as leading men in Hollywood. And so I just went, okay, I can't do that. I'm also very small. My mom is 5 foot tall. My dad is 5'5". I said, oh God, I'm going to just be a small kid and I'm not going to be a famous actor. So what am I doing? And that was a shift into, I need to essentially go entrepreneurial, right? I'm going to achieve, I'm going to do this. And by the time I graduated high school, I had won. I was varsity in multiple sports, president of clubs, student body, scholarship, academic scholarship to college. And I was voted homecoming king. Like just check the boxes. Like I won them all. And I realized this didn't make me happy. I literally woke up the day after winning homecoming king next to my super hot girlfriend and went, I feel empty. I feel
You were 18.
18.
Okay.
And I had that moment that so many people that I've coached have at 45, where they realize they made the $1 million. They have the house and the wife and the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence and the Labradoodle, and they're not happy. But I got that at 18. And whether that's nature, nurture, whatever, the blessing of now going on the journey of, well, what is happiness? Because they told me that I needed to do these things and I did them and I'm not happy. I actually feel worse because now I don't even know what to do. Before I thought if I did these things, I'd be happy. And that's when I made a decision to start asking myself, what makes me happy, and pursue that above all else. And that led me to moving out to Los Angeles to pursue an acting career. And I went all in on my artist, literally all day, every day. That was my sole focus. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a successful actor. And that journey is so valuable because I think so few people ever go all in on their artistic dreams. Truly all in. Right. Where you move somewhere, that's your focus, that's what you invest in. You work in a restaurant just to pay the bills so that you can do that thing all the time. Musicians, actors, painters, for those of you who have gone all in on that, it's a different type of courage. And I think that having that experience was amazing. And then where we put our attention, it will grow. And so I hit this milestone when my poem went viral. Right? I'm skipping ahead in the story, but my poem went viral years later. And then I had my social media blow up overnight. 40 million views in 48 hours. Suddenly, I'd never had more than 5,000 followers. Suddenly, my social media is going crazy. And I had no monetary value coming back to me from that because I had not designed a monetization ecosystem around it, because I completely abandoned the inner entrepreneur, because I had thought that in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to let go of your dreams and your heart.
Right.
You had to let go of fulfillment. You couldn't pursue your passion and be an entrepreneur. You had to do something that was logical and made sense. And so I abandoned that completely. And as a result, when I had this major opportunity come into my life, tons of attention, I had not built a business around what I was doing. And I feel it was a massively missed opportunity. And so my next journey was going, how do I lean into now honoring and nurturing the entrepreneur in me and bringing that into wholeness? And what you've seen over these last several years is what it can look like when you heal that inside of yourself and you nurture both your inner artist and your inner entrepreneur, and you design something that actually is fueling both of them. And so I feel my life has really taken off since that.
So I just heard you say you heal that inside of yourself. What is that? The conflict between the inner entrepreneur and the inner artist.
The part of you that wants to be valued for your pure expression. Mm-hmm. The part of you that wants to just be able to feel what's true for you in its purest form and be able to put that out, be seen, be heard, be loved, be celebrated for that. There's like an inner child element to that. It's very pure. And the inner entrepreneur that's saying, okay, I want to build something. I want to have purpose. I want to provide value. I want to feel like there's meaning to what I'm doing beyond just expressing. Like, what's the impact that it's making? And I would like to see that impact rewarded through financial means. I'd like to see a business grow out of that. And we've in society vilified that so much. So we've downplayed the role of the artist in society. We've made it something that's unrealistic. You're told it's unrealistic. We cut it out of school programs, arts and crafts and creativity. And so we're sending the signal that it's not important. We're not nurturing it in our children. And then in the entrepreneurial realm, we see a massive amount of media that's portraying the desire for money and financial abundance to be greedy. That you have to walk on people, that you have to do things that are out of integrity in order to really get ahead because other people are doing that. It's business people are sharks, right? That's portrayed in all of our media, which we could go the conspiracy theory route of why they want you to not want money. It's its own thing. But this conflict exists. It exists in people. It exists in me, even to this day. And when I say heal that, I don't mean heal it forever. I still have conflict between these two sides of myself. I mean, heal that particular level so that I can get to the next level and see the next layer of our healing, which, as you know from the psychedelic journey, it's just this upward spiral where we can continue to see this karmic curriculum of our development. But the frame of the inner artist and the inner entrepreneur for me really encapsulates some of the biggest conflicts that prevent people from having the life that they want. A life where you can make a lot of money and feel fulfilled at the same time, and you can express yourself fully and know that it's providing value and impact in a positive way. You get to have all of that.
Earlier, you shared there's a certain kind of courage to go all in on being your artist, right? And I was thinking in that moment, like, I think most people don't even go 1% in to being their artist. And it seems like quite a leap to go 50% in, right? The artist and the entrepreneur. So many of the people that have come through these doors have spent 40 years, grueling away at a job or at their own company, finally realizing they're unhappy after they've climbed that first mountain, that pinnacle, right? And so to those people, that's like, wow, how do I even touch my creativity? How do I even touch my inner artist? What would you say is that first step?
Self-love. To love yourself enough to be willing to create and willing to express and willing to put time and energy and attention on just allowing your soul to express. Let's break down what art is. Art is the expression of creative energy into tangible form.
Oh, 1 second. Art is the expression of creative energy into tangible form.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is my definition of art.
Mm-hmm.
And now, what is creative energy? Creative energy is life force energy. We all have a life force that beats our heart. There's a life force in this universe that causes the sun to rise and flowers to bloom. There is something fueling all of this. And that life force energy moving through a human being expresses itself in two ways. One is creatively, one is sexually. And you could argue they're actually the same, but just for the sake of conversation, let's say it's those two ways. So when you see someone that you're really attracted to and they walk into the room and you're attracted to them and you feel that rush of life force, you call that I got turned on. Now, that same thing happening when it's not attached to a person you're attracted to, but it's a thing or a painting or whatever, you call that inspiration. I was just inspired. It's a rush of life force energy. You were turned on by life. And so when we can recognize that our life force energy is what creativity actually is, well then, what is life force energy? Life force energy is the unique frequency of your soul. Your life force energy is uniquely yours. It is the thing that means when I do my events and I have everyone write a poem, I could give you very specific rules. I want you to write about love when you were in 2nd grade, and it needs to be 8 lines. Every single poem will be different. Every single one.
Right.
That's because your life force energy expressed creatively is entirely unique. It is the closest thing that I know of that encapsulates the essence of your soul, your vibratory signature. Now, we see about sound healing, sound baths, and we're seeing cymatics and the power of sound and frequency and vibration to heal. What could possibly be more of a healing vibration than your unique life force energy being allowed to flow through you, and you saying to that energy and to yourself, to your soul, hey, I'm going to give you the space, I'm going to give you the attention, and I love us enough to be willing to risk the rejection that comes when I express out into the world. There's nothing more loving than that. And so you have to love yourself enough to be willing to do that. And so that's the starting point for me.
I love this definition. It creates a reminder for memory, because when you're creating something that didn't exist before, right? And it's unique to your soul signature. And I'm reminded of a ayahuasca ceremony during the pandemic where I think we have a mutual friend there, Dave, and we were sitting in a circle. He was shirtless, jamming on the guitar, going so nuts and just dancing around. And I was watching him and I was like, how come I can't do that? Right? At that time, I had no musical outlet. I really wasn't writing that much, etc. Right? And when I posed myself that question, the answer that came back to me is what art really is, the creation of something that comes from within myself. And I realized at that moment that something that I was really passionate about creating is business.
Mm.
And so I went on to, over the course of the next 6 months, double my company's revenue at that time. And so something I'd just like to share and maybe get your perspective on it is art doesn't have to look like music or look like painting or look like poetry. In your definition of this being art being bringing your life force energy into tangible form, I'm kind of confusing some of the deep explanations. Like it could be any creative outlet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, the way you organize your closet, the way that you prepare food for your family. You take a normal meal on a Sunday morning of pancakes and you turn them into the little face, a Mickey Mouse face with blueberry eyes and a peanut butter smile, and you just turned it into art. You take your closet that you just throw things in and you decide, I want to design it in a way that inspires me, and I'm going to do it color coordinated, this to that, and you just turned it into art. And I really think that people hold themselves back because their definition of art is so limited. And what's important to understand about this is that it's not even about creating the art that's the most important thing. The most important thing is shifting your lens into the lens of an artist, because the artist sees the layer of beauty that is always available to us that most people can't see.
The beauty way.
The beauty way. And so now I'm able to hear the rhythm in the city sounds that used to annoy me. I'm able to really appreciate the way that the light enters into the room on my lover's face in the morning. I'm able to just see things so differently. I begin to dance where I would have previously walked. And so the role of the artist so much of the time is to show people, look how beautiful this is. Life, the same life that you are a part of. Look at how beautiful it is. Look at how differently you feel about this situation because I put it into words that rhyme and have rhythm. And I want to invite more people to step into that. It's more people to be able to see the beauty for themselves and be able to then share that vision they have of the beauty way with other people. And so art is the way that we do that. And if you want to go even deeper, art is the highest leverage way that we shift human consciousness. And so if you really want to shift the consciousness of this planet, like so many people probably listening to this feel aligned with that idea, how do we elevate consciousness on this planet? Well, art is the highest, most effective and efficient way to do that.
You just said, this is what you want to do. Why? What's in it for you? What do you get out of this?
Well, there's two sides to that. I would say my inner artist and my inner entrepreneur are both rewarded from doing this. And the inner artist is entirely inner facing. I don't create art for other people. When I write a poem, I write the poem for me. I might release it for other people. I might share it for other people, but I create it for me.
I feel like this is like an important tidbit. Like the art that you create is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the art is the exploration of it's my soul and my conscious mind. It's us dancing together. I learn so much about myself. I'm exploring myself. I'm having my higher self speak through me and to me. The number of poems I've written that have surprised me where they've gone, too many to count. And that journey of creating, I said, is a self-love journey. I do that for me. And I think most artists would agree. I think you get into a really tricky mainstream factory farmed space when you're creating everything for like the hit or for other people in that way. So, and you can even make the argument, let's say that I was going to paint a portrait for someone. I would still argue that I'm painting it so that I can express how much I love this person or how I see this person or challenging myself to like, can I do that? Whatever it is, there's a me to that. And so my artistry, my poetry, my filmmaking, all of that is for me and the journey that I get to go on and evolve. And then the entrepreneur is not about making money. I think I want to remove that. That's how the entrepreneur evaluates whether something's working or not. But the entrepreneur is about providing value. So it's about what do people need? What do people want? What's the need in the market, right? So how you evaluate the value you're providing is, okay, are people willing to pay for it? Now, in my artistic expression, I have this entrepreneurial side that's being rewarded because I've been able to create an ecosystem that rewards my artistic expression financially, with more invitations to speak on incredible stages, with more influence and social media following, with more opportunities, and an incredible amount of freedom. And so both of them are nurtured and nourished because I've actually designed it that way. I think that previously, as I mentioned, I completely ignored my entrepreneur. Before that, I was completely ignoring my artist. And I think the danger of doing that is you wind up an artist who's broke, or you wind up being an entrepreneur who's unfulfilled.
So you are, I think, by many accounts, we could say a successful artistic entrepreneur, right? And earlier, I just heard you say that you make art for yourself. I also make art for myself. And I would say in this moment, I'm an aggressively mediocre musician. Right? And I love playing music. I love picking up a guitar. I just started learning it. I saw you play and I was like, man, Adam's got skills. I just want to mention that
I
briefly.
know. You were like, I didn't know you could do that. I'm learning so many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I see you, I learn something about you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I absolutely adore playing this guitar. And if I could not do any work all day, every day, and I could just play this guitar, I would be super happy. Right. And yet the entrepreneur side of me says, I can't go and launch a music career right now. Right. There's so many better guitar players. There's so many better musicians. So, and simultaneously, I feel like I love myself. I've done a lot of work on this. So what would you say to me as a possible avatar for you?
Well, you just shared some beliefs that imply correlations that aren't necessarily true, right?
Yeah.
So for example, there are so many better guitar players. Okay, awesome. So do only the best ones make money? Do only the best ones have careers? There are a ton of terrible musicians that are very famous for their music.
Let's name them. Just kidding.
No, but there's a lot of, for example, there's a lot of incredibly famous pop stars, for example, that don't write their own music. They don't write their own lyrics. They don't write their own music. They're just very talented performers and maybe singers. And that's what they bring. And they need to be paired with great writers. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not even judging that, but I don't think a lot of people necessarily know the behind the scenes of that. And as an actor in Los Angeles, there are a lot of really not great actors at their craft that are just incredibly charismatic, man. You just love them. You meet them as humans and they're so charismatic. And between the natural charisma and the right roles and good editing, they are stars. But if you were to give them a dramatic scene that would show actual acting craft, even as I'm saying that, the craft of acting is so widely varied that to say that you need to be able to reach deep emotion or whatever, that's not necessarily, you could say, no, someone who's able to sell hundreds of millions of dollars in box office revenue because they're charismatic and they know how to play the character that they play. Well, maybe that's a version of the craft of acting that you evaluate it through. And, so I just think that as you were sharing, I'm going, okay, well, there's a belief around what you need to be in order to have a career. And then the idea of, okay, well, now how are you evaluating a career? What does that even mean to have a career as a musician? There's a certain idea in your head of what you would have to hit tangibly in order for that to be considered an actual career or a successful career. And so if I was working with you or talking to you about it, I'd say, let's actually just break all those into pieces. Let's really understand what that means. Because I had someone in my community recently who was sharing that she wanted to entirely earn her living from her music. That's what she said. And I said, okay, what does that mean to you? She said, performances and streaming revenue. I said, great. Well, if that's the only way that you want to earn your money, then you're in the pretty traditional world of making money as a musician. And there are some proven models there. One, you as an independent artist could look at some people like Russ or Connor Price or how they've figured out how to leverage social media into streaming revenue. Cool. You can do that. You got to build a social media following. Or get a manager, get an agent, get a record label and go that route. Again, you're playing in that paradigm. Now, if you're open to the idea that you could make money in other ways and it would be still through your music. The way that I look at when I make my money through the Artistic Entrepreneur Program or through coaching or getting invited to speak on stages or corporate events, all of that is tied to what I've been able to do through my art. The invitations that I get to speak on stages are because I, one, have a social media following that was built from my art. And two, because what I bring to those stages is unique because I bring my art and my poetry to it. And so if I had this idea that the only way I want to make money is through my poetry, and I said that meant that I had to only, sell books and have poetry, like those are the two ways, poetry shows and poetry books. That's the only ways. I was set on that. All of these other opportunities go away. And those opportunities to me are as much the result of my inner artist as they are my inner entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I'm hearing like inspect my assumptions here, right? And earlier in this discussion, I think the framing of exploring creativity and life force energy, et cetera, that sounded like the inner artist. And just now what you framed sounded like the inner entrepreneur side of exploring what the belief structures that someone might hold around what is viable and what is not and how it's related to their artistry and what they want to do. And it's like when those two things combine and collide, there is, to me, I'm hearing a sense of creativity and what could possibly come out of that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I lead poetry workshops.
Yeah.
That alone is different than there's an entrepreneurial side to let me lead poetry workshops, right? And I mean, you've come to one of them. And to me, that is my artistry. It's so fun. I'm on stage. I'm combining the performer that was an actor. I'm combining my poetry. I'm combining my coach and personal development. I'm leading creative writing workshop component. I'm sharing the stage with people in an open mic fashion. You shared on that stage at my show. And by the way, I have a show in Denver. I don't know if you're going to be in town or just side note, but that to me, when you can bring your inner artist and your inner entrepreneur into harmony, you actually open up more possibility. And the artist specifically feels incredibly limited by the idea of the entrepreneurial way. It feels like it could be limiting. And the entrepreneur feels as though it won't work. That's the thing. It's like, you can't make it artistic and just create, you have to have the thing. And so the idea that it won't work is a fear of the entrepreneur. The idea that it's limiting and is a fear of the artist. And so bringing that into wholeness, in my experience, has really up-leveled everything and given me so many more opportunities for how to share my art and how to make abundance.
There are two words that I really tuned into, the word wholeness and then earlier the word heal, right? And on this podcast, we have a lot of neuroscientists and we have psychotherapists and leading psychedelic leaders, et cetera, right? And first of all, what I'm really loving about this conversation and this open-ended exploration of creativity is we're just getting to something simple, right? How to create and how to be an artist and how to spread that art.
Aren't the deepest truths the most simple?
Aho. And you said like the first step in that process is self-love, and we had a little laugh about that. But I want to like backtrack to this, right? Self-love. I don't think I could easily get a neuroscientist exploring the effect of psychedelics on the mind to tell me that the path to healing is self-love. They would say it's through these receptors and there's these dopamine triggers and so on and so forth, right? And so I'm curious from your perspective, like, what is this path of self-love and how did you get to a place where you realized, I am loving myself more and more now, and that's unlocking something in me?
Well, I believe that self-love is the byproduct of your relationship with yourself. So I got screwed up and went into deep depression for a long time because I thought I didn't love myself.
When was this?
This was in 2018, 2019. It was right after my poem went viral, a poem about self-love.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Because
okay.
What happened is I have a poem called You Are Who You've Been Looking For.
Yeah.
That poem has now been viewed over 250 million times. And as I shared it, it was viewed 40 million times in the first 48 hours. So overnight, I was receiving 1,000 messages. And most of them were just like, I love this poem. Thank you so much. I sent it to my friends, my mom, etc. And there were a lot of messages that were people saying, I don't know how to love myself. Can you help me? What do I do? I'm suicidal. I'm thinking about killing myself. Help me. And I realized I didn't have an answer. And that's part of why I didn't have a monetization ecosystem, is because I hadn't gone deep enough beyond the poem to even know how to help someone. truly. And I felt like a fraud. I felt as though I couldn't help people who really needed it. I felt as if I'd given false promises. I judged myself. I shamed myself. So much. And I dropped into a really deep depression. And this was a depression that, on and off throughout my life, I've dealt with. I experienced sexual abuse when I was 5, and that was a repressed memory I didn't remember till I was 30. So it was just in there. And so I had bouts with depression on and off for my whole life. What it did was force me down a path of learning how to love myself. Because I think when we experience really challenging times in our life, that is when the universe is really testing us and asking us, what do you truly believe? What do you actually believe? So in those moments where life is hard, you just had someone really close to you die, you just lost your job or whatever, do you believe that it's still important for you to exercise and eat well? And do you believe that this is working for you as opposed to happening to you? Do you believe that you are creating your reality, or do you believe it's like all of these sorts of things are tested in the hard moments? And what I chose to believe at that time was I believed that I was creating it, and I believed that the answer was self-love. I didn't know much more than that. And so I went, okay, if I believe that the answer is self-love, what does that look like now? And I would spend hours of every morning. My commitment to myself was not to turn on my phone until I had shifted my state. And so there were some days I spent 4 hours in self-love practices. And what I mean by that is I would exercise, I would dance, I would cry, I would take baths, I would meditate, I would journal, I would shake, I would tap, I would have whatever it was that I thought, I think this is love. I would stretch my body, things that I just had heard about. Mirror practices, right? Talking to myself in a mirror, affirmations. I was trying everything for hours of every single day before I ever allowed myself to turn my phone on. And slowly but surely, things started to shift. And I see now that I had held this belief that you either love yourself or you don't, like it's a light switch. It's either on or it's off. But in reality, when people say they don't love themselves, I'm saying you do. You just want to love yourself more. And if you want to know how, let's examine the relationship you actually have with yourself. If you and I had the type of relationship where all I did was tell you how stupid and ugly and like not capable you are, and that's how we spent all of our time together, I doubt you would really love me very much. I don't think that we would have a very good friendship. And yet we talk to ourselves in that way all the time.
Right. Yeah.
What do we expect? And so just starting from, okay, how do I develop a better relationship with myself? Instead of trying to figure out how to love myself, just how do I develop a better relationship with myself? And I believe that the creative path, that's why I named my podcast that. I believe the creative path is the most effective and efficient path for our personal and spiritual growth. And it's because the creative path is where we force ourselves to look at our life and look at situations in our life and force ourselves to look at it through a different lens. So the way that you think about this aspect of who you are, to put that into a poem requires you neurologically to look at it differently. To paint about your trauma requires you to look at that trauma differently. And just by creating a few new neurological pathways for how you look at things that are going on in your life or your past, I mean, this is the foundation of psychedelic assisted therapy, is how do we bring a new lens to things that have happened? And we don't need psychedelics for that. They're very helpful. But we have this thing called art and creativity that allows us to do that and get in touch with that part of ourselves in an entirely new way. And I don't think enough people have a relationship with their own creativity and their artistic expression to understand how healing that is, both on the esoteric level, but also this very real neurological rewiring level.
I'm almost going back to your definition of art, right? Bringing something into tangible form. But the way that I'm hearing art that you just described it in relationship with memories that exist, like let's say a traumatic memory and then painting that traumatic memory and therefore having a different lens on it. It's like bringing into tangible form a different view on life,
Mm.
right? And there's this like observer mindset that is really hitting me in this moment of the importance of first just creating a relationship with yourself.
Mhm.
I think most people don't have a relationship with themselves.
Mhm.
You ask somebody, how are you? What's the answers you get? Fine, great, good. I don't know about you, but I've never been fine one moment in my life. I've been excited. I've been pissed off. I've been curious. I've been, so many different things. But what is fine, right? And it's like that first development of that relationship and
Mhm.
then exploring how deep we can go with the relationship itself feels like it's the underpinning of all creativity.
Yeah, I think that to express creatively is, again, to express the unique energy of your soul. I don't know a way that you can do that. I even paint by number, like even that to some degree is going to involve the way that you want to do it. What are the colors? I think about acting and how I was always saying words that I didn't write or in a script or a scene that someone else wrote, but I'm still bringing myself to how I say them. And there's something really special about it, man. You can probably tell I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I believe that the best way that I can show people how it works is to do it. So that's why, yes, I have the Artistic Entrepreneur Program where I bring a lot of this into it and help people, incorporate this more, but also my own creative expression is so telling for me. If I were to sit here and tell you a story about my molestation when I was 5, and I say, okay, I was molested when I was 5 and it really shaped me. And then I said, even just now, okay, now I have to tell you that to you in 4 lines that rhyme. I was molested when I was 5. At that time, a part of me died, but here I am still alive. And not just that, I've learned to thrive. Just what happened right there. Super simple rhymes, almost elementary in the way that I did it, created a new view of that thing right now where I realize I'm thriving, man. And I don't know the last time I stopped and made the connection between I went through something really challenging as a kid and here I am thriving. When's the last time I really thought that and put those two things together? And I've never put it together with those words in that order. And so I've just created a new reference point for myself right now. That took me, 15 seconds? So imagine what happens when I sit for 4 hours working on something. Imagine what happens when I work for 4 months on something. This is an opportunity that people are just missing. And we are looking around at solutions that are pharmaceutical and let's make sure to get our, cold plunges and our saunas and our bulletproof coffees and our supplementation game. I do all of those things. And yet we have this thing that to me is foundational. It's why we've come here. If we are truly, as all of these ancient wisdom schools teach us, we are an expression of creator, we are a part of creation, then we are here to be creating. And so that is my message, that's what I stand on. And that's what I try and weave into this realm of personal development. How do I bring that unique flavor into what I do as a personal development guide and coach? Well, that's where my inner artist and my inner entrepreneur meet. What do I know for the Artistic Entrepreneur Program, right? There's 5 steps. It's a very clear blueprint. If you want to build a business that really is thriving, the first thing you need to do is become a vibrational match to your greatness. You got to figure out what's in the way and what needs to shift so that you can be a vibrational match. So you can shift your neurology and start to see the patterns of things that you couldn't put together before so that you can move into the second step, which is to create a 100% certainty offer. And what that means is that I have a product, a service, an offer of some kind that I have 100% certainty if the right person finds it, I will change their life. Then sales becomes about matchmaking. I'm not trying to sell it to everyone. I'm trying to find that person who I have designed this for. And then once you've done that and you have that certainty and you remove those blocks, you move into the third step, which is creating signature content. And by signature content, I mean content that captures that essence, explains what you do, but more importantly, people can feel that certainty and the work that you've done to become a vibrational match to it. And that will attract people the way that my poem did. And then you move into the fourth step, which is once you have that signature content, great, now you need to date your audience. And by date your audience, I mean you create authentic relationships with your audience so they see you as marriage material, where they want to go deeper with you. They want to spend time with you. They want to pay you. And that's where you have that fifth step, which is you build a monetization ecosystem. That means the funnel, the flows, the team that allow you to be in your genius and allow people to get what they need. And inside of that, your inner artist and your inner entrepreneur will battle at every stage of that. But ultimately, that's a structure that your artist can come in and play with so much. I've just explained how art can be used to figure out what are the blocks, right?
Right.
I've just explained how art can come into designing your offer. This offer that I'm even talking about is entirely artistic to me. It's the creative journey. Dating your audience and creating signature content, that's an obvious place that you can get super artistic. And then the monetization ecosystem, what you're actually designing for yourself, as you described, is actually a creative process. And who do you attract into that process can also be incredibly fun and creative, and designing that for them. And so, yeah, I mean, I have this artistic side, and at the same time, there's structure to it. And that's the sweet spot. And that journey is one that will bring people into a life of fulfillment that I think few people are touching right now.
Hearing you speak with this passion, earlier I asked you, what do you get out of this? Like, why are you doing this? And what is your art? I mean, it seems like you have lots of different outlets.
I think that my art is expanding consciousness. I think that for me, I love the journey for myself of expanding my consciousness. And what that means tangibly for people is expanding my awareness. Our consciousness is the sum total of all the patterns that we can see. And so as we become more aware, we're able to see something that was entropy and see how it actually has a pattern to it. And that is when you become God consciousness, you are able to see the entirety of every pattern in existence throughout all time. You see how it all makes sense. And so we are in varying degrees of what we can see in terms of the patterns in our own lives and in the algorithm that is this reality. And so what's interesting to me is I love that so much for myself. And I love being able to do that for people. I love being able to share something that makes people go, whoa, I've never thought of it that way. Or I've never seen it that way.
Yeah.
And what that does is when we are able to spot new patterns, we've just opened up new possibilities.
Poetry and possibility.
That is the name of my live events, Poetry and Possibility, because the moment that you have some new patterns that you can see, you are able to make new choices you previously were not able to make, which means that you can create new realities you previously couldn't create. And so I love that. And I think that the artistic path, the creative path, is the most effective, efficient, sustainable path for doing that. If I could think of a different way that was more effective, I would probably do that. But this is so rewarding to me as an individual in my own growth process. It's the most effective way I've seen it work for other people. And so therefore, the way that I accomplish my true art of expanding consciousness is by walking a creative path.
It's beautiful. First, thank you for coming on the show. You're really reminding me of something that my teacher and someone that you've sat in ceremony with shared with me that was really impactful. He said, healing doesn't have to be hard. And what I'm receiving from this message from you is that healing can be playful, joyful, creative, lovely, empowering, right? So, Adam, how can people find you? How can people explore their inner entrepreneur and inner artist with you?
Well, I have a lot of online real estate. I would say that Instagram, adam.roa, my podcast, The Creative Path, my website is adamroa.com. There's so many places. I'm really grateful that we've had a chance to drop in this way, and that you've given me a platform to speak this message, and also that you're putting in all the work to do this. People are here. It's like we have cameras and lights and microphone, and to make this happen in order to share a message with the world is not a small thing. And so just really acknowledging you and the work you do with Ceremonia. And yeah, I'm very excited for the artistic entrepreneur cohort that will begin in late July of this year. So for people who want to go on that journey, it is a capacity limit. We're limiting how many people so that I can actually go in deep with people. So if they're interested in being a part of that, we can give them, a link so that they could apply.
Thank you so much. Shall we go play some guitar?
Totally.
All right. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Modern Enlightenment. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to check out our website, subscribe to our online community, and check out our social media links in the show notes for more resources and updates.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to stay connected with our upcoming episodes, where we continue to explore the intersection of modern science and spiritual wisdom. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep shining your light.